One major development going on now involves more to do with Rachel Zegler and her attitude towards South Park Studios and Paramount after learning about what they are planning for their upcoming special called the DEI Special.
The last time I had the dream, I was walking down the school hallway, and that's when I started to notice that something's wrong. Everyone I cared about has been systematically replaced. And finally, I want to scream, and I'm like, why are they replacing every single character with someone who is diverse?
Rachel Zegler just dropped a massive 9-figure defamation lawsuit on South Park creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone. And it shocked Hollywood. This wasn't petty celebrity drama. It was a headline-grabbing war tailor-made for the internet age.
Exactly what they're doing. And that is why we hate the diversity, equity, and inclusion casting and writing in movies.
On one side, you've got a rising star still trying to crawl out from the wreckage of Disney's disastrous Snow White reboot. On the other, two fearless comedy legends who've built their careers dragging pop culture through the mud, with zero apologies. The drama erupted after South Park aired a savage episode mocking all the chaos surrounding Rachel's modern spin on Disney's classic princess. And true to form, Parker and Stone didn't hold anything back.
Now active involves more to do with both South Park Studios and Paramount, and what they recently did toward both Zegler and the Disney company for their Snow White film. It turns out that both Trey Parker and Matt Stone are already preparing for the DEI special that is set to serve as a sequel to the Panderverse.
The episode cranked the absurdity to max volume, turning internet gossip into full-blown cartoon mayhem. Animated, Rachel strutted through a fantasy kingdom, decked out with smartphone-style royal bling, dropping hot takes on history, Hollywood power, and culture wars like she was on a press tour. Each scene went harder than the last, all leading to a ridiculous musical number that roasted big-budget remakes into the ground.
Snow White is the first American feature-length animated movie, 1937. It's one of the most beloved movies of all time.
While fans were laughing out loud, the real Rachel wasn't laughing at all. At first, Insider hinted she'd let it slide. She's smart, she knows how South Park plays the game. But that narrative didn't last long. Just days later, TMZ dropped a bombshell. Rachel Zegler files $100 million lawsuit over South Park episode. At first, people assumed it was just a scare tactic, a bluff to pressure an apology or retraction. But then, her legal team came in swinging. Official papers were filed, accusations flew fast. Rachel claimed the episode didn't just poke fun, it shattered her career image, painting her as a spoiled, clueless star who helped tank a Disney blockbuster.
Even if everything worked perfectly, it would have been almost impossible for this movie to succeed because you're comparing it to one of the most beloved films of all time and a truly groundbreaking movie.
The lawsuit didn't hold back. It accused Parker and Stone of crossing a line, turning edgy parody into full-blown character assassination. According to the claim, South Park basically framed Rachel as the sole reason Snow White crashed and burned. The legal filing zeroed in on one animated scene where cartoon Rachel was shown pocketing money from the film's budget, complete with a sarcastic jab about $40 million going toward budget snacks. Rachel's legal team slammed it as not just unfair, but maliciously false. And according to them, the fallout was immediate. Job offers started vanishing right after the episode aired. One studio reportedly told her reps they were waiting for things to cool down because the cartoon version had trashed her image that badly. For Rachel's camp, that was all the proof they needed. This wasn't just a joke. It was a direct hit to her career. Real money, real damage, real consequences.
As an actor, you don't get to dictate anything. You don't get to dictate if a film actually happens. You don't get to dictate when it is shot, how it is shot, if you can ever speak about it to the public. You are simply just there to show up and say your lines and look the way they want you to look.
News of the lawsuit hit right as Parker and Stone were wrapping up a writers' meeting in Culver City. Staffers described how every phone in the room buzzed at once. Variety, Deadline, all flashing the same headline. The co-creators locked eyes, part annoyed, part amused. They've survived legal threats before, from religious groups, giant corporations, even angry protesters camped outside Comedy Central. But one actor demanding 9 figures, yeah, that was new. One writer joked, "Guess we're finally worth $100 million each." It got a few nervous laughs, but underneath the humor, the mood was shifting. The room felt heavier, because for all the snark, there was real tension brewing behind the scenes.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see it. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Trey and Matt knew the landscape had changed dramatically since South Park first hit the airwaves in '97. Back then, late-night cable gave them cover to push limits without instant backlash. But now, every single joke drops online like a bomb, dissected, memed, and blasted in front of millions within seconds. If a court ruled that their Snow White spoof crossed into defamation, it wouldn't just sting, it could wreck everything. That includes their massive Paramount Plus deal, rumored to be worth close to $1 billion. Suddenly, South Park's legendary nothing's off limits energy was facing its biggest legal test yet, and the internet, it exploded. Reactions were all over the place. Some rallied behind Rachel, calling her brave, saying she was finally standing up against what they described as unchecked animation harassment. They saw her as a victim of nonstop online hate, but others, they weren't buying it. They hailed Parker and Stone as the last true defenders of unfiltered comedy, rallying behind the hashtag #SatireIsNotSlander. Late-night host couldn't resist, joking that it was now princess versus paper cutouts in the defamation war of the year. Meanwhile, cable news lit up with legal panels asking the one wild question: can a cartoon actually count as defamation? Inside South Park's offices, Parker and Stone locked themselves into a late-night war room. Their first instinct? Flip the whole situation into an episode, like they've done so many times before. They've never backed down from mocking themselves or spinning scandals into storylines. But this time, their lawyers slammed the brakes. Hard. Any new joke could backfire, seen as retaliation or worse, used as ammo in court. So, in a shocking twist, the duo known for mocking everything and everyone went silent, at least for now.
It was supposed to come out like a year and a half ago, and then we went after them so hard because of their variety of ridiculous sins that they actually went into full-scale reshoots.
Behind closed doors, the jokes didn't stop. Sketch ideas flew like wildfire. A puppet trial with cartoon versions of themselves on the stand. A sad ballad titled "Sue Me Gently." Even courtroom art drawn like toddler scribbles. But every idea stayed locked away, sealed tight until the legal handcuffs came off. While Parker and Stone kept silent in public, Rachel was reportedly bouncing between fierce resolve and total exhaustion. Sources close to her said this wasn't just about the money. She wanted to send a message: I'm not an easy target. Rachel felt that if she didn't fight back now, she'd be frozen in time. That joke in a dress with a phone, stuck in memes and punchlines forever. Critics called her dramatic, but to her, this was survival. Not just reputation, but identity.
God forbid a woman dream about true love. We're all just sitting around here, maybe I could be president one day. I hate men, I just want to be president. That screams Disney princess. Oh my God, I'm literally getting enraged. Once again, I feel like I'm back in 2022.
Come on, even Tom Cruise, Kanye, and the Queen have been roasted harder. But Rachel's supporters pushed back fast, arguing that those icons have massive fan bases and careers built to survive a cartoon beatdown. Rachel, still rising, was way more vulnerable. One viral mockery could define her entire image. As the lawsuit made its way through the Los Angeles courts, Parker and Stone finally broke their silence, dropping just 2 short lines. We believe strongly in the right to parody public figures and public events. We look forward to a defense of that right. Clean, professional, no punches thrown. But behind the scenes, insiders claimed the second their legal team gave the green light, the creators were ready to turn the entire saga into comedy gold. Now, legal experts say it all hinges on one razor-sharp question, and depending on the answer, it could reshape satire forever. Where's the line between savage satire and straight-up defamation? Legally, most jokes are protected, as long as no reasonable person would take them literally, but this case, it walked a razor's edge. In the contested South Park episode, animated Rachel belts out a wild musical number, claiming she rewrote iconic scenes just to score bigger paychecks. Fans may have laughed it off as obvious parody, but Rachel's legal team argued that not everyone watching got the joke. They came with receipts, real social media posts from viewers who genuinely believed Rachel hijacked the production. Her lawyers claimed this wasn't just a mockery, it was a distortion of reality. And that, they argued, had real-world consequences. Parker and Stone's defense didn't hold back either. They fired back hard, ready to prove that satire, no matter how sharp, is still protect. Parker and Stone's team came armed with mountains of online posts, fans openly mocking the episode's over-the-top absurdity. Their message was clear: no one with common sense could possibly take this seriously. It was an outrageous skit meant to make people laugh, not spread false information. But just as things started getting messy, Disney entered the frame. Though not officially named in the lawsuit, insiders claimed Disney execs were sweating bullets. Why? Because if the court started pulling production notes or internal emails related to Snow White, especially anything referencing Parker and Stone's parody, it could expose the very decisions they've been trying to keep buried. With Snow White's bloated budget already under scrutiny, the last thing Disney wanted was subpoenaed documents dragging them into the legal spotlight. Word was, their lawyers were standing by, ready to shut down anything that pointed in their direction. Meanwhile, the court quietly set a trial date for early the following year, and that timing raised eyebrows. If Rachel landed any major new roles, this lawsuit could explode again, right in the middle of red carpet season.
Yeah, the entire film's about a love story. It's about a love story because that's what the point of the film is. And I'm sorry that chivalry in a man pursuing you is now deemed as stalking, which now it's kind of making sense why men are opting out of the dating scene.
South Park was already eyeing their next season, possibly lining up an on-air response the moment legal restrictions lifted. Behind the scenes, entertainment lawyers speculated both sides might quietly settle to avoid a messy public trial. But Parker and Stone, they weren't budging. Settling, they argued, would open the floodgates. Suddenly, any celebrity who didn't like being the punchline could threaten a lawsuit. Trey reportedly told a colleague, "If we cave once, it never stops." That defiant stance fired up free speech advocates, including the ACLU, which filed an amicus brief in support of the creators. Their message, loud and clear: satire holds the powerful accountable. They warned that studios spend fortunes crafting perfect public images for their stars. And if comedy loses the right to challenge that, the public may stop questioning what's real at all. Rachel's team began shifting the narrative, carefully. Rather than attacking free speech outright, they reframed the message. This wasn't about killing comedy. It was about one person standing up when a joke crosses the line into personal destruction. During a carefully staged late-night talk show appearance, Rachel appeared tearful but composed. She insisted she respected satire, but objected to what she called reckless distortion that could ruin a career. Her vulnerability sparked a fresh wave of headlines, with some calling her brave, while just as many called her overly sensitive. Online, it was open war. Team Rachel and Team South Park were trading punches, memes, video edits, hot takes flying from every corner of the internet. Meanwhile, reasoned voices, completely buried beneath trolls, outrage bait, and digital shouting matches. By the time the pre-trial hearing hit, the courtroom wasn't just a legal arena. It was a spectacle. Reporters swarmed in, all hunting for the next viral soundbite. Parker and Stone showed up in muted suits, but, true to form, couldn't resist slipping in some quiet chaos. Matt's tie was covered in tiny cartoon paper cutouts. Trey wore cufflinks shaped like miniature TVs. Meanwhile, Rachel arrived separately, flanked by her legal team, and dressed in a sharp navy blazer. Cameras caught the split-second glance she shot toward the creators, a look that could have been anger, anxiety, or maybe even a flicker of hope for resolution. Inside the courtroom, Rachel's lawyers zeroed in on one gag, a cartoon scene where animated studios hurled piles of money at Rachel as she shouted, "Modernization isn't cheap, peasants." They argued that scenes like this misled viewers, making people believe she actually demanded over-the-top perks in real life. The defense fired back without hesitation. This is South Park. Their tone was firm. Their message? It's parody. Brutal, ridiculous, and absolutely protected. The show has talking towels and time machines on tricycles. Who's actually believing this is a documentary? That was the defense's rallying cry. They leaned hard on the First Amendment, arguing that if satire can't push boundaries, creativity dies. But the judge didn't dismiss the case. Instead, they ruled that a jury should decide whether an average viewer could tell parody from supposed fact, a middle ground decision that left both sides unsatisfied and guaranteed this battle was far from over. As the two camps exited the courthouse, they stuck to their scripts. Parker and Stone expressed full confidence in winning. Rachel stood firm, saying she was fighting for truth, boundaries, and accountability. What started as one cartoon episode had officially spiraled into something far bigger, a cultural flashpoint over where comedy ends. And consequences begin.